Good evening and welcome to tonight's Bible study. We're doing Proverbs 17, and Proverbs 17 reads, "Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. A wise servant will rule over a disgraceful son and will share the inheritance as one of the brothers. A crucible for silver and a furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. A wicked man listens to evil lips. A liar pays attention to a malicious tongue. He who mocks the poor shows contempt for their maker. Whoever gloats over disaster will not go unpunished. Children's children are a crown to the age, and parents are the pride of their children. Arrogant lips are unsuited to a fool. How much worse lying lips to a ruler. A bribe is a charm to the one who gives it. Whosoever he turns, he succeeds. He who covers over an offense promotes love, but whosoever repeats the matter separates close friends. A rebuke impresses a man of discernment more than 100 lashes a fool. An evil man is bent only on rebellion. A merciless official will be sent against him. Better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool in his folly. If a man pays back evil for good, evil will never leave his house. Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam, so drop the matter before the dispute breaks out. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, the Lord detests both of them. Of what use is money in the hands of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? A friend who loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man lacking in judgment strikes hands in pledge and put up security for his neighbor. He who loves a quarrel loves sins. He who builds a high gate invites destruction. A man of perverse heart does not prosper. He whose tongue is deceitful falls into trouble. To a fool, to have a fool for a son brings grief. There is no joy for the father of a fool. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries to the bone. A wicked man accepts a bride in secret to prevent and to pervert the course of justice. A discerning man keeps wisdom in view, but a fool's eyes wanders to the end of the earth. A foolish son brings grief to his father, and bitterness to the one who bore him. It is not good to punish an innocent man or to flog officials for their integrity. A man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even tempered. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. Tonight, there are several comments about a fool. And I want to start with that idea is because there are people who, the moment they open their mouth, we recognize that they are lack understanding and are really lack wisdom and knowledge and judgment. And so I like the way this proverb ends. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent. My youngest daughter says silence is golden, but duct tape is silver. And her point is silence is indeed golden, but for a fool, the moment they open their mouth, the best thing that you could do with them is probably to duct tape their mouth so that they cannot say stupid things. And I don't know, but for whatever reason, there are a lot of people, without saying names or naming names or saying who get on TV and say foolish, stupid things. And as I read that verse, even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. Unfortunately, a lot of people haven't learned to hold their tongue and speak and say things. Little do they realize that the moment they open their mouths to speak, everybody is judging them and saying, look how stupid they are. They don't even know facts from fiction, and they say things that are obviously not wise. Verse 27, and I know I'm working this proverb backward. It says, a man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even tempered. And as we think about that, if a person would just use some restraint rather than blurt out their ignorance, and isn't that what we see and hear quite often on TV? People blurting out ignorance and making claims that aren't the truth. The verse that I really like, it says, verse 12, better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool in his folly. And that speaks volume to me. Solomon is saying, better to meet a bear robber for cubs. In other words, a bear robber for cubs would be a vicious animal. Mama bear would be wanting to tear into anybody and everybody. And Solomon is saying it is better to meet a mother bear robbed of her cubs than to meet a fool. And so this whole idea of, as we see on TV, people who say what is obviously foolish, or even people you may know personally, which is even worse, that are just, I want to tell them, why don't you keep quiet? You'll see, you'll you know what the proverb said, that if you hold your tongue, you will appear wiser than you actually are. And unfortunately, these people are rambunctious and boisterous and have a lot to say. I remember years ago, without saying, and hopefully some of my coworkers never see this video, but years ago I had a boss, and he would talk on and on and on. And little did he know that as his subordinate, we had to listen and put up with him in his verbose ways. But the worst thing was, he used big words and did not know the definition of the words and used them incorrectly, and appeared as such a fool, trying to appear wise, and said things that he did not know anything about. And he just talked on and dominated the conversation. And when I say dominated in volume, I mean he was loud and obnoxious and tried to appear wise. And this, even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue, just spoke volume to me. And Solomon saying, it is better to meet mama bear who has been deprived of her cubs than to meet a fool and his folly. I think back of those days, and even today as we face our current situations. And I don't want to turn this into anything, but we all know who I'm talking about. People who are so verbose and say things that are folly. It says, verse 14, starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. Unfortunately, a fool does not recognize that they're being foolish, and they say things that start quarrel, and they say things that upset other people, and they just keep on talking and saying more and more things. And Solomon is saying, starting a quarrel, being a fool, saying stupid things, and then arguing with you that they are right when they are so obviously wrong, is starting a quarrel, in my opinion. And Solomon is advising us as Christian, as people of that is seeking wisdom and discernment. it's best not to start quarrels in the first place. And if a matter does come up, to drop it, to let it go. For me as a Christian, what it means is, as Christians, we need to drop certain things and forget it. The Christian terminology that I want for us to think about is the term forgiveness. We need to forgive people, to let go. Verse 9 goes with that. It says, he who covers over an offense promotes love, but whosoever repeats the matter separate close friends. And let's be realistic. There are times that I know I am, as an individual, say and do things that are wrong, and I ask for forgiveness. At the same time, there are other people who may say or do things that are wrong against us. And if we would just cover over those things, forgive people. We want to be forgiven. If we just forgive people, it says, he who covers over an offense promotes love. In other words, what I'm saying is, we need to, when people say and do things that are, we consider dumb, stupid, whatever else you want to say, sometimes it's best for us just to let it, like the saying, go, water off a duck's back. Let it go. Forgive and forget. Let it go. But unfortunately, the person that is not a good Christian and cannot forgive and forget and let go of other people's offense, they keep repeating the same thing over and over. It says, he who covers an offense promote love, but whosoever repeats the matter separate close friends. And the reality is, after a while, if you ever meet a person that is not, that grates on you, and if you don't forgive and let go, after a while, what happens? The relationship separates. And so Solomon is saying, the best thing for us to do is sometimes to forgive and move on. As a matter of fact, I am glad that a lot of people forgive and move on with me, because as I mentioned, I say a lot of dumb, stupid things at times, and I have to go back and say, you know what, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And whenever somebody does something against me, I'm one of the first persons to say, you know what, it's no big deal, let it go. Because here's the thing, we sleep better. I know I sleep better if I just forgive and move on. Then Solomon, picking up back in verse 1, I know, like I said, I'm working this Proverbs kind of backwards. He starts off with this: better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. And I think that's what we're talking about. Because let's be realistic. Sometimes the people that we need to forgive are close to us. They are in our house. They are our family members. And what Solomon is saying, it's better a dry crust with peace and quiet than to have a house full of feasting with strife. And to have a house where people are quarreling and aren't forgiving is not a very peaceful situation. And I advise you, as Christians, we all need to recognize that it is better to have peace and tranquility in our homes than arguing and doing foolish things. And sometimes, here's the thing, in the heat of an argument with our loved one, sometimes I know I have said stupid things. As a matter of fact, I have said more stupid things in the heat of an argument with my family than anywhere else. On dealing with the church people or at the prison as the pastor, I always had to remember, okay, I'm the pastor, I need to treat people with dignity. But let's be realistic. When you're dealing with your immediate family, there are times I know I have been guilty of saying things, and maybe you too have done that, saying things that you later regret. And Solomon's advice to us is, he who covers over an offense promote love. And the worst thing we can do is argue and fight with our families. I know I've been guilty of it. And I know it's not confession time, it's a Bible study. But let's be realistic. We need to learn from it. I know I have learned. I have learned sometimes it's better to lose a fight at home when dealing with my wife and promote peace and tranquility and to promote love and to forgive and forget. Because here's the truth, in any relationship, and I know this is true in mine and it's probably true in yours, in any relationship, people have difference of opinions. But the important thing that I had to remember is, especially early in my marriage, I used to argue about everything and anything, and I used to be able to win, or at least from my perspective, I believe I won at the argument. I would, and what I was really doing was beating up my wife and in winning arguments after arguments. But at the same time, I was losing my wife. And so one of the things I had to learn, and I want for us to hear this, I had to learn winning an argument with a loved one and beating up on the person verbally is not winning at all. I had to learn that. And so that's what Solomon is saying. It's better to have a dry piece of bread with peace and tranquility and to forgive when we do have differences of opinion. And to, because here's the thing, I might have won the argument, but I was losing my wife, the love and the care and the togetherness. And so Solomon is saying, better to do that and to cover up offense. And I had to learn that, there are times it's best to just keep my mouth shut and just to say, okay, we disagree about this one, but rather than argue about it, rather than trying to prove my point that I am right and you are wrong, it's better to forgive and move on. That there's more to life than winning an argument. There's more to life than that. Verse 3, I think, gets to the point. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. And what I had to learn was that ultimately God tests our heart. In other words, God tests our intention. And in my early marriage, sometimes I would win the argument, but I did it for the wrong reason. And God tested and convicted me and said, you know what? I was winning arguments after arguments, fight after fight, but at the same time, I was pushing away the one I loved. And God looks at my heart just as he looks at your heart and judges us. And I had to ultimately ask for forgiveness from my wife, from my kids. I had to, a matter of fact, there's everybody. I even have to ask forgiveness from my church family at times, because here's the thing. I have said and done stupid things, and I'm sure you have too. But we as Christians need to come to that point of realizing that we are sinners. We ask forgiveness from God. We ask forgiveness from others. Whenever someone asks forgiveness or do something wrong against us, we also forgive them. Solomon then talks about some things. Verse 6, children's children are a crown to the age, and parents are the pride of their children. If you have a family, your kids and your grandkids are indeed very valuable. Family and loved ones are so valuable. And it's go both ways. And I know quite a few of y'all have kids and grandkids. I don't have the privilege of having grandkids yet, but I can tell you, I am very proud of my two daughters, the things they have done. I'm very proud of my wife. But the other thing is also true. Make sure that you live the kind of life that your kids are proud of you. And one of the things that I know I do is I stop and think, if I do X, Y, and Z, will my kids be proud of me? Will my family, my wife, my kids? I know when I was younger, I'd ask, would I want to do this and my mother see it? Family is so important. Verse 7 says, arrogant lips are unsuited to a fool. How much worse lying lips to a ruler? Unfortunately, fools are most of the time also arrogant. I mentioned that a little earlier about my boss. He was not only a fool, he was arrogant. And in my opinion, I would rather meet a bear that is robbed of her cubs, a mama bear, than to meet that particular individual. I know it's been about 20 plus years since I had this boss, but let's be realistic. I would rather meet a mama bear because he was such and arrogant lips that are unsuited for a fool. Let's move on to some other things, because Solomon then talks about men that are evil. An evil man, verse 11, an evil man is bent only in rebellion, and a merciless official will be sent against them. If a man pays back evil for good, evil will never leave his household. I want to read that again. If a person pays back evil for good, evil will never leave his household. The way we treat people, if people treat us well, we need to treat them well. If people treat us badly, Jesus points out we don't need to treat them badly. We need to treat them well. We need to be mindful that we are Christians first. No matter if people treat us good or bad, we are Christians first, and we always treat people what? Good. Here's the thing. This proverb is saying if people treat us good and we treat them badly, bad things will happen to us. I know we are Christians. We don't believe in the idea of karma, but we do believe in we reap what we sow. And if we sow bad things, we will reap bad things. And that's what that is saying. If a person sows evil, they will reap evil. And here's what Solomon is saying. If you are a person who is negative and evil, evil will never leave you. Have you ever noticed that there are some people, everything is always bad, negative, and it doesn't matter what happened to them, it's bad and negative. And then there are some other people, everything is good and positive. Here's the thing. We as Christians need to be like W. Clement Stone. And I know most of y'all who don't know who W. Clement Stone is. But whenever anything happened to W. Clement Stone, he always said, that's good. Doesn't matter what happened. And I had to learn from W. Clement Stone, no matter what happens to me, my philosophy, at first sometimes I might I hate this. But I have come to the conclusion, that's good. Because here's the thing. It is good because God would not put it in your life, because God always wants good in our life. When bad things happen to me, I look at it and say, okay, God, what are you trying to teach me? What good thing are you trying to teach me? Even when bad things happen in my life, I have come to the conclusion like W. Clement Stone and said, that's good. Now let me start looking for what the good is. That's the point. If we look for the good, we will find it. If we look for the bad, we will find it. Whatever we look for, we will find. And so I came to that philosophy also. W. Clement said, whatever happened to you, say, that's good. And every time I have moved, took a new job, or any circumstance or anything happened to me, I always say, that's good. And I then start looking for the good. We as Christians always focus on the good. We always look for the good. Unfortunately, there are times we do get negative, but here's the thing. Whenever we find ourselves negative, remember, whatever happens is good or bad, doesn't matter. It's how we respond. And we can choose to respond. And my choice is always, whatever things happen to me, good or bad, I say that's good. Give you an example. If the car breaks down, I say that's good. Why? Because I can take it in and get it repaired. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It's how you respond. Solomon then talks about acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent. The Lord detests them both. And I want to end tonight on this last part. And it has to do with money. Of what use is money in the hands of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? Some people don't like to hear about money. But if any of y'all know me for any length of time, y'all realize that I talk about money sometimes. As a matter of fact, I have no problem talking about money. Rosalie sometimes tell me, Ricardo, you need to quit. But here's the thing. Money does not change a person for good or bad. Love of money is evil. That's what the Bible said. The love of money is evil. Money is neutral. And if you give a fool money, they will use it foolishly. If you give a wise person money, they will use it wisely. And so Solomon says, of what use is money in the hands of a fool? The reality is, and I've said this before, if you give a drunk money, all they will do is go out and buy more alcohol. If you give a drug addict money, all they will do is go buy more drugs. It's not the money that buy the things, it's the individual who wrongly uses the money. And so Solomon is saying, if you give a fool money, it's useless to him. They will blow it. That's why I don't buy lottery tickets. Once upon a time, years ago, I used to buy lottery tickets. Oh, I want to win, I want to win. I quit buying lottery tickets years ago, and here's the reason why. Most people who win the lottery within 5 years, lose it all, because giving money to a fool is worthless. And money in and of itself is not valuable if you don't learn wisdom. So let's read that verse again. Of what use is money in the hands of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? Once you get wisdom, once you gain knowledge and you master money, because here's the thing, some people are slave to money. But if you master money, you no longer a slave to it. You can use it. Money is a tool, like any tool, to be used to benefit yourself, your family, and others. And so the most important thing to do with money, in my opinion, is for us to first get knowledgeable about money, to gain wisdom and understanding so that you can then use it wisely. That's what that proverb is saying. What good is money to a fool, since they desire not to get wisdom? And so I end with this. Solomon is right. We as Christians should be seeking God and God's wisdom. Wisdom is the most important thing for us. Thank you. I'll see y'all next week.